Hello friends, and welcome to the Forgotten Past. On this channel, you'll explore untold stories, lost events, ancient discoveries, and hidden secrets from across history. Let's view the video. Top 15 Deadliest Leaders in Human History. 1. Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong ruled China from 1949 to 1976 and was responsible for the deadliest regime in human history. His policies led to mass starvation, executions, and relentless persecution under the pretense of communist revolution and national modernization. The Great Leap Forward, 1958-1962, a misguided industrialization effort, caused a man-made famine. Agricultural collectivization failed, food supplies collapsed, and over 30 million people starved to death in rural areas while the government denied the crisis. The Cultural Revolution, 1966-1976, further destabilized China. Mao mobilized youth as red guards to purge intellectuals, capitalists, and political opponents. Public humiliation, executions, and internal exile claimed millions more lives and destroyed centuries of cultural and historical heritage. Mao's harsh suppression of dissent was absolute. Millions were imprisoned or killed for minor infractions. Education was replaced with propaganda, and totalitarian control over thought, expression, and private life became standard. Despite the horror, Mao is still venerated in some circles. However, his leadership remains the deadliest in modern history. Conservative estimates place his total death toll between 45 to 70 million, more than any other political figure ever recorded. 2. Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin ruled the Soviet Union from 1924 to 1953 with an iron fist, orchestrating mass purges, famines, forced labor, and state terror. His regime was responsible for the deaths of 20 to 25 million people. Stalin's policies of rapid industrialization and collectivization led to the Holodomor, a state-engineered famine in Ukraine. Grain was exported while peasants starved, resulting in over 3.5 million deaths from starvation and disease. During the Great Purge, 1936-1938, Stalin eliminated political rivals, military leaders, and civilians. People were falsely accused, tortured, and sent to gulags or executed. Fear and paranoia gripped the entire population. The Gulag system imprisoned millions in harsh conditions. Forced labor, malnutrition, and torture were rampant. Ethnic minorities such as Chechens and Tatars were forcibly relocated, often dying, en route or in exile. Despite rebuilding the USSR's economy and military, Stalin's legacy is soaked in blood. His cult of personality, betrayal of comrades, and systemic atrocities make him one of the most terrifying figures in history. 3. Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler led Nazi Germany from 1933 to 1945 and was the architect of the Holocaust and world War II, making him one of history's most universally condemned figures. His ideology of racial purity led to the deaths of millions. The Holocaust claimed 6 million Jews and millions of Roma, disabled individuals, and others deemed unfit by Nazi ideology. Gas chambers, forced labor, and mass shootings became routine in concentration and extermination camps. Hitler's invasion of Poland in 1939 sparked World War II, the deadliest conflict in human history. Civilian casualties from bombings, starvation, and reprisals reached into the tens of millions across Europe and Russia. His domestic policies crushed all dissent. Political opponents were imprisoned or executed, media was censored, and education was turned into Nazi propaganda to mold the minds of German youth. Hitler's legacy is one of total annihilation. He left Europe in ruins and redefined evil in modern history. His direct and indirect actions caused 17 million non-combat deaths, excluding battlefield casualties. 4. King Leopold II of Belgium. King Leopold II ruled the Congo Free State from 1885 to 1908 as his personal colony. His brutal extraction of rubber and ivory resulted in the deaths of 10 to 15 million Congolese through forced labor, starvation, and violence. Congolese laborers were tortured, mutilated, or killed for not meeting rubber quotas. Soldiers cut off hands as proof of executions, often maiming living victims to save ammunition while reporting phantom kills. Entire villages were burned, women and children taken hostage to force rubber collection. The population of the Congo was halved in less than 25 years under Leopold's rule, making it one of history's worst genocides. Despite international outcry, the atrocities persisted for decades. Human rights activists like Idi Amin and Roger Casement helped expose the crimes, leading to global condemnation and the eventual annexation of Congo by the Belgian state in 1908. Leopold died wealthy and honored in Belgium, though his reputation deteriorated over time. Today, he is remembered as one of the most exploitative and deadly colonial rulers in history. 5. Hideki Tojo. Hideki Tojo, Prime Minister of Japan during World War II, 1941–1944, oversaw an expansionist war that led to the deaths of 5 to 10 million people, including civilians massacred across East and Southeast Asia. The Nanjing Massacre in 1937 saw Japanese troops rape and murder hundreds of thousands in China's former capital. Mass executions, arson, and sexual violence characterized Japanese occupation under Tojo's command. Japan's military used chemical weapons and conducted horrific human experiments, including biological warfare through Unit 731. Civilians were subjected to torture, vivisection, and infection with deadly diseases without consent or anesthesia. Tojo also employed forced labor across Asia, including comfort women, kidnapped and coerced into sexual slavery for Japanese troops. Prisoners of war suffered starvation, beatings, and execution. Captured after Japan's surrender, Tojo was tried and executed for war crimes. Though some in Japan still regard him as a patriot, his legacy is stained by some of the worst atrocities of WW. 6. Ismail Enver Pasha. Ismail Enver Pasha was the Ottoman Empire's Minister of War during World War I. He orchestrated the Armenian Genocide, which resulted in the deaths of 2 to 3 million Armenians, Assyrians, and Greeks. The Armenian population was forcibly deported through deserts where starvation, rape, and execution were common. Children were separated from families, and entire communities were annihilated under direct orders from Enver and his associates. Assyrians and Pontic Greeks faced similar fates. Villages were burned, clergy executed, and survivors enslaved or exiled. This ethnic cleansing was framed as a security measure against Christian minorities siding with Allied forces. Enver's military incompetence worsened Ottoman losses in WWI. His failed campaigns in the Caucasus led to mass troop deaths in freezing mountains without adequate supplies or planning. After the empire's collapse, Enver fled to Central Asia, where he attempted to stir rebellion before being killed in 1922. His name remains synonymous with genocide and betrayal of his people. 7. Pol Pot. Pol Pot led Cambodia's Khmer Rouge from 1975 to 1979. His radical attempt to create an agrarian utopia led to the Cambodian genocide, killing 1.5 to 2 million people, nearly a quarter of the population. The regime evacuated cities, shutting down schools, hospitals, and currency. Intellectuals, professionals, and even those wearing glasses were executed. Mass graves, known as killing fields, became Cambodia's tragic hallmark. Forced labor camps and collective farms led to death by starvation, disease, and exhaustion. Families were separated, and individuals were regularly tortured and executed on suspicion of disloyalty. Ethnic minorities such as Vietnamese, Chinese, and Muslims were targeted for extermination. Religion was banned, and temples were destroyed. The Khmer Rouge outlawed even affection, banning hugs and tears for the dead. Pol Pot fled after Vietnam invaded Cambodia in 1979. Though captured, he was never tried for genocide and died in 1998. His rule remains one of the most terrifying in modern history. 8. Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-sung ruled North Korea from 1948 to 1994, founding one of the most repressive regimes in modern history. His dictatorship caused 1.5 to 2 million deaths through war, purges, and famine. The Korean War, 1950-1953, began with Kim's invasion of South Korea. The war killed millions and left the peninsula divided. North Korean civilians were caught in bombings, massacres, and forced conscription. Kim built a cult of personality centered on divine worship. Statues, songs, and mandatory reverence eliminated free thought. Entire families were punished for perceived disloyalty, sent to brutal political prison camps. A deadly famine in the 1990s, caused by mismanagement and international isolation, killed hundreds of thousands. Starving children scavenged for food, while government elites remained well-fed. Despite his death in 1994, Kim Il-sung is still officially revered as North Korea's eternal president. His dynasty continues to rule, perpetuating the totalitarian state he created. 9. Mengistu Haile Mengistu Haile Mariam ruled Ethiopia from 1977 to 1991 and led a brutal Marxist regime known as the Derg. His policies caused 500,000 to 2 million deaths through political purges, famine, and military conflict. The infamous Red Terror campaign in 1977-78 targeted political rivals. Youth activists, students, and civilians were executed in the streets. Bodies were left as public warnings, and families were forced to pay for bullets used. Mengistu's forced collectivization and villagization campaigns destroyed traditional agriculture. Combined with drought and war, this led to the 1983-1985 famine, killing up to 1 million people while the regime hid the crisis from the world. Eritrean and Tigrayan separatist wars escalated under Mengistu's rule. Entire villages were bombed, and civilians tortured. Children were abducted into the military, and famine aid was often blocked or diverted for political control. Mengistu fled Ethiopia in 1991 after rebels closed in on Addis Ababa. He was later convicted of genocide in absentia, but remains in exile in Zimbabwe. His reign remains one of Africa's darkest chapters. 10. Idi Amin Idi Amin ruled Uganda from 1971 to 1979. Known as the Butcher of Uganda, his regime was marked by ethnic persecution, mass killings, and gross human rights abuses, killing 300,000 to 500,000 people. Amin rose to power via a military coup, then targeted rival tribes and political enemies. Executions were widespread. Bodies were dumped in rivers or mass graves, and state violence became institutionalized. He expelled Asian Ugandans in 1972, collapsing the economy. Their properties were seized, and their forced removal led to international condemnation. Uganda lost skilled professionals and entrepreneurs almost overnight. Amin's erratic behavior worsened. He tortured dissidents, executed cabinet members, and kept human heads in refrigerators. His lavish lifestyle contrasted with the nation's economic collapse and widespread starvation. In 1979, Amin was overthrown by Tanzanian forces and Ugandan exiles. He fled to Saudi Arabia, never facing trial. His dictatorship remains a chilling example of how absolute power corrupts completely. 11. Benito Mussolini Benito Mussolini ruled Italy from 1922 to 1945 as the founder of fascism. Though often overshadowed by Hitler, his regime was responsible for 300,000 to 400,000 deaths through war, repression, and imperial conquest. Mussolini crushed political opposition with violence. The Blackshirts, his paramilitary thugs, beat and murdered socialists, liberals, and dissenters. Free press was abolished, and fear became the backbone of his totalitarian state. His imperial ambitions led to the invasion of Ethiopia in 1935, where Italian forces used chemical weapons and massacred civilians. This colonial genocide killed hundreds of thousands of Ethiopians. Mussolini's alliance with Nazi Germany and Toast further exposed Italy to devastation. Jews and anti-fascists were deported. When Italy surrendered in 1943, Mussolini became a puppet leader of the Nazi-occupied North. He was captured by partisans in 1945 and executed with his mistress. His body was hung upside down in Milan. Mussolini's regime paved the way for fascist ideologies worldwide. 12. Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein ruled Iraq from 1979 to 2003. His reign was defined by brutal purges, chemical warfare, genocide, and war, killing 250,000 to 500,000 Iraqis, Kurds, and Iranians. Saddam used chemical weapons against Kurdish civilians in Halabja in 1988, killing over 5,000. The wider Anfal campaign destroyed thousands of Kurdish villages and claimed tens of thousands of lives. He waged a devastating war against Iran, 1980-1988, resulting in 1 million deaths. Saddam used child soldiers, targeted cities with missiles, and committed atrocities against Iranian POWs. Domestically, he silenced opposition through executions and torture. The Ba'ath Party's secret police enforced terror. Entire families were imprisoned or disappeared for criticizing the regime. After invading Kuwait in 1990, the Gulf War followed. Sanctions and internal repression crippled Iraq. In 2003, Saddam was captured by U.S. forces and later executed for crimes against humanity. 13. Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan, c. 1162–1227, founder of the Mongol Empire, led military conquests that killed an estimated 30 to 40 million people. Entire cities were erased as his armies swept through Asia and Eastern Europe. Genghis united Mongol tribes through ruthless warfare. He then unleashed invasions across China, Persia, and Central Asia. Cities like Nishapur and Urgench saw entire populations executed, men, women, and children. His military tactics were brutal but effective. He used fear as a weapon. Surrender meant mercy. Resistance brought annihilation. Mongols built pyramids of skulls as warnings to future targets. Yet Khan also established efficient governance. He promoted religious tolerance, trade across the Silk Road, and communication systems. For his empire, he brought law, order, and commerce. Still, the death toll remains one of the highest in pre-modern history. Genghis Khan's legacy is complex, part brilliant strategist, part architect of mass destruction. 14. Nero. Nero ruled the Roman Empire from 54 to 68 AD and is remembered as one of Rome's most infamous emperors. His reign was marked by political purges, religious persecution, and the deaths of over 100,000 people. He began with promise, but soon turned tyrannical, executing his own mother and stepbrother. Political rivals, senators, and even poets were accused of treason and forced to commit suicide or be killed. The Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD destroyed much of the city. Nero blamed the early Christians, initiating the empire's first persecution. Christians were crucified, burned alive, or torn apart by animals. Nero's lavish spending and artistic obsessions strained Rome's finances. He built the extravagant Domus Aurea palace on the ruins of the city, enraging the population and Senate alike. Facing rebellion from governors and generals, Nero fled and committed suicide in 68 AD. Though some view him as a patron of the arts, history remembers him as a cruel, paranoid despot. 15. Vladimir Lenin. Vladimir Lenin led the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917 and founded the Soviet Union. Though revered by some, his rule caused 100,000 to 1 million deaths through executions, famine, and civil war. Lenin's Red Terror campaign targeted monarchists, clergy, intellectuals, and peasants. Thousands were summarily executed or imprisoned without trial by the Cheka, the secret police he helped create. During the Russian Civil War, the Bolsheviks used starvation as a weapon. Grain requisitioning and the destruction of crops led to the famine of 1921, which killed hundreds of thousands. Lenin also orchestrated the brutal suppression of uprisings like the Kronstadt Rebellion, where former allies, workers, and sailors were massacred for protesting Soviet policies. Though he died in 1924, Lenin laid the ideological and structural foundations for Stalin's totalitarianism. He remains a controversial figure, revolutionary, hero to some and ruthless architect of oppression to others. Thanks for watching The Forgotten Past. If you enjoyed the journey, like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a hidden story or untold truth. New discoveries await. See you in the next video.